What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with your week number 3 waiver wire targets, the must pickups in your fantasy football league for week number 3. Let's help you continue to win in your fantasy football league. Before I get into my must targets for the week, Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more fantasy football videos just like this, and comment below any guy that you feel is the must pickup of the week. Also, if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate. Put them in the comment section right now. Alright guys, let's start off with my waiver wire targets this week in week number 3 with the quarterback position. The quarterback position this week, not too many great targets out there, but there are a few that I think you should take a look at. First is Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, he plays the New York Giants this week, and if he is out there on the waiver wire, I know some leagues he'll be there, some leagues he won't be there, depending on how deep your league is, depending on how many quarterbacks people took in their draft. But Jameis Winston had a good game versus Carolina, and when Jameis Winston is on, he's on, and he's useful for fantasy football. And this week, he plays a very juicy matchup. We already saw Dak Prescott and Josh Allen torch this secondary and this defense. Jameis Winston, Mike Evans is getting healthier. They're trying to get O.J. Howard more involved, and Godwin looks like an absolute stud this season. Tampa Bay has a very good chance to win this game, and I just believe Winston should be able to pass for a lot of yards. You know Arians is going to take those shots deep, so Winston does have a very good matchup this week and has very high stream appeal. The second guy is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo had a very good week last week, and if you started him last week, you're pretty much a genius because after his week 1 performance, not a lot of people were going to be starting Jimmy Garoppolo, but this week, he actually does play Pittsburgh in the home opener for San Francisco. And the thing is with Jimmy G, you're not just buying into Jimmy G, you're buying into the 49ers offense, and more specifically, Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan was incredible with what he did from a scheme perspective versus Cincinnati, and we've seen Pittsburgh, even though they got Minkah Fitzpatrick, has been very susceptible to downfield bombs, and that could very well be the case for Jimmy Garoppolo this week. So he's a good stream candidate as well if you need a quarterback, potentially if you lost Drew Brees or Ben Roethlisberger to injury. Jimmy is not a bad guy, especially to keep on your roster because he will get better as the season goes on because he is coming back from injury. Mason Rudolph is the last one. I actually believe in Mason Rudolph. I think he has a lot of talent from what I saw versus Seattle. He has a zip in his arm. He is athletic. He can make plays. And of course, he's in a good offense. So there's a good offensive line. There is a rushing attack to take the load off of him. And there's a Juju number 1 type of receiver to go to. He also seems to have a connection with Vance McDonald. All these things are positive for Mason Rudolph. Rudolph, maybe you don't pick him up this week, but there is potential, and I would definitely keep my eye out. The other guy that I didn't put on this list, but I would keep an eye out for him, is not Teddy Bridgewater, but Taysom Hill. If Teddy Bridgewater, for whatever reason, loses that job or loses snaps to Taysom Hill is going to be a fantastic fantasy option because of all that he can do, his versatility, his ability to run. He would become a fantasy asset if he were to play. All right, let's go to the running back position. The running backs are interesting this week. I think there are a few that you have to keep your eye on, and if they're not already on teams, you should definitely pick them up. The 2 biggest ones to me are Samuels and Ito Smith of the Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Samuels, he is going to be the starting running back with the Connor injury news and all that going on. Samuels immediately becomes a very intriguing option for fantasy, and he has top 2 running back type of fantasy appeal on your fantasy team. And San Francisco, this week in particular, they've been pretty good versus the run. They have a pretty good defensive line. But when you take a look at it, I mean, the Steelers need to run the ball. And Samuels has looked explosive. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And we know that whenever the Steelers lose a running back, they rarely go with a committee. They always go with the next man up, and they give him that load to carry. So Samuels is going to be the guy in Pittsburgh until we see progress in Connor in terms of the injury front. Then I brought up Ito Smith. Ito Smith, just to me, I know that he's not the starter, but he's getting starter-like carries, touches for Atlanta. And the thing is, he's looked more explosive than Devontae Freeman. If you are a Devontae Freeman owner and do not own Ito Smith, I would tell you right now you need to own him because Ito Smith could take this backfield for himself. Devontae Freeman has not looked good for the first 2 games this season. Maybe that's him working off the rust. Maybe that's him just being done overall. But Ito Smith has looked more explosive. He's looked better in the passing game. And I would consider picking up Ito Smith big time, even if I wasn't a Devontae Freeman owner and he's out there in your leagues. Raheem Mostert is an interesting option. I told you to pick him up last week. If he's still there, though, I would definitely consider picking him up. We saw his usage this week was pretty solid alongside Matt Breida, and Breida's going to be the guy going forward with Tevin Coleman out, but somebody else is going to carry the ball because Shanahan loves to run the football, and the 49ers are very good at it with a good offensive line. So Raheem Mostert is going to get the ball and is an intriguing flex option in certain matchups. Maybe not this week, but going forward. Frank Gore of the Buffalo Bills. Now, Devin Singletary is going to continue to take more and more touches away from Frank Gore, but Frank Gore has shown that he's still a solid football player, and he still has the legs, and he can still do it. So to me, Frank Gore is getting the touches as well and the opportunity. And to me, with the Bills being a good team, they're 2-0, and with them continuing to score, Frank Gore does become an intriguing fantasy option. And I would pick him up if you need that running back depth. Justin Jackson of the LA Chargers. Now, he's probably owned in a lot of your leagues, but if he is out there, pick him up because, I mean, Austin Eckler isn't getting every carry. He's not getting every touch, and Justin Jackson does have the capability versus juicy matchups to go off, so pick up Justin Jackson. Malcolm Brown, same thing with Todd Gurley. I mean, Todd Gurley, he's going to get a lot of the touches, but Malcolm Brown has looked just as good, if not better than Todd Gurley in a lot of his opportunities. Plus, we've seen that McVay, Goff, the Rams offense, they want to get Brown involved. They want to get him the football, and he's doing some good things with it. So even though he played a pretty tough matchup versus the Saints, I expect him going forward to have some very good weeks and to even win you weeks at times when you need to put him in your lineup if you are desperate. And then Adrian Peterson. Now, Peterson's not the biggest high ceiling play in the world, but he will give you a nice floor if you're just looking for a player to put in your lineup. He is the starting running back technically for the Redskins. He is the guy with the early down work for the Redskins. So I would consider picking Adrian Peterson up as well if he is still out there. At the wide receiver position, we start with Robinson of the Kansas City Chiefs. I told you to pick up Hardman. Seemed to work out for the Kansas City Chiefs this week. But Robinson was the guy that really went off. And I think what we've seen now is that both of these guys are going to get the work when Tyreek Hill is not there. And as Tyreek Hill tweeted out, this might be the best receiving corp in the entire NFL. I mean, there's so much talent in this receiving group. And with Travis Kelce taking the primary coverage away and taking the double teams, you're going to see Robinson get a lot of one-on-ones, get a lot of good matchups. And we've seen Patrick Mahomes can do it with just about anybody. Andy Reid is a genius from an offensive play calling perspective. This guy's going to put up points. So as long as Tyreek Hill is out, this guy becomes very fantasy relevant and would probably be my number one wide receiver target this week. Then you look at Deebo Samuel from the 49ers. The 49ers, the interesting part about them is, the bad part for me is I drafted Dante Pettis in a couple of leagues expecting maybe a breakout season from him. So far, he's barely played. And the breakout guy so far has been the rookie, Deebo Samuel, for this passing offense. And like I said earlier, as Jimmy Garoppolo continues to play, as he continues to get time, he's going to be better and better and better. So that means Deebo Samuel, rookie, is going to be better and better and better as he gains experience in this offense, as he gains experience in the NFL, and he gains chemistry with Jimmy Garoppolo. And also, you're seeing that Shanahan is kind of getting used to how to use him, how to get the right matchup with him, and it seems like he is the number one option in this passing attack outside of George Kittle right now, and he's definitely worth that pickup on a good offense, on a good team. The next one are the Cowboys combination of Smith and Cobb. Now, Cobb is more of the slot guy. He's probably going to pick up more receptions, and I'm more intrigued with Cobb if I'm in a PPR league. If I'm in more of a half PPR or standard league, I'm looking at Smith as a downfield big play replacement for Michael Gallup. Either one is a nice pickup. Cobb's looked pretty good in his comeback so far on the Cowboys, and has pretty much been that Cole Beasley that they've wanted from him so far. And with Gallup out of there and losing the targets, I'm sure that some of them will go to Jason Witten, some of them will go to Zeke, but also these two receivers will probably be picking up the slack as well, so they're worth the pickup as well. Marquise Goodwin, I think specifically this week, is a good pickup to stream if you need a receiver, because the Steelers, like I said earlier, give up a lot of big plays. Marquise Goodwin is the big play receiver for the 49ers and one of the fastest players in the NFL in general. And Goodwin is intriguing because he's pretty much in the role right now that we expected from Dante Pettis going into the season. If he continues to have that role, he's definitely going to have some longevity this season in terms of fantasy appeal. And the last one is Cole Beasley. I included him last week as well. He had a few catches this week. I think he had about 87 to 90 yards this week. And it just seems like they're involving him in the offense. He's getting the targets. He's the number 2 receiver in the Bills' offense. And Josh Allen, as he continues to improve, Cole Beasley's appeal continues to go up. Cole Beasley is a guy that is kind of like the Adrian Peterson of the pickups this week for the wide receiver position. He might not go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he'll probably at least give you a solid floor of a few receptions and 50 to 60 yards a week. And at times, he might put up a touchdown. He might have 90 yards. I think Cole Beasley is really safe in that slot role and really safe in that number 2 receiver role for the Bills right now. And the tight end of the week is Will Dissly. Dissly has been pretty interesting for the Seahawks this season. Now, the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, I think it's been impressive to see these wide receivers, specifically the options around Russell Wilson in terms of Dissly and Metcalf, really prove me wrong in terms of being playmakers around Russell Wilson. I expected it to be Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson, and not much else on this offense, but they've proven me wrong. Dissly and Metcalf have been very interesting and have a lot more talent than I even anticipated. Now, I liked Metcalf coming in, but I wasn't sure if he would be an impact right away, and he has definitely been that impact. Now, Dissly, he is a tight end that it's interesting with the Seahawks because Russell Wilson has always kind of liked to throw to the tight end, and every tight end that the Seahawks have had has had at least some sort of fantasy appeal and some sort of streamer potential, and I think that's what Dissly is. He's a streamer guy. I think with the right matchup, you play him. Maybe he continues to prove that he is going to be a weekly play, but for now, I think he's a streamer guy, and if you're having issues with your tight end position, you could definitely do worse than him. He seems to be the number 3 option in the passing game, which is not bad on the Seahawks offense that is actually throwing a little bit more than they were last year. And Russell Wilson spreading out defenses a little bit more. They're letting Russell Wilson go a little bit more 5 wide. They're letting him go a little bit more fast break than they did last season, which is positive for both Russell Wilson and the receivers around Russell Wilson. And I think they also have probably better weapons than they did last year. So that speaks volumes for the Seahawks offense and Dissly for his fantasy impact. Those are my waiver wire pickups for week number 3. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button. Subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this. And comment below any questions you have for me regarding fantasy, regarding waiver wire pickups, anything like that. It's Mitch. Once again, thanks for watching. These are the fantasy targets of week number 3. Peace out, guys.